Are we on? Are we on? Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I am your host, Glenn Poole Harding. And oh boy, tonight we have a very special guest. This basketball head is a native Brooklyn, New York. Listen, he is one of Bishop Ford High School's all-time great players. He was an all-city and all-Brooklyn performer before he attended Keene State College in New Hampshire. At Keene State, he garnered all New England Collegiate Conference honors and was team captain while at his alma mater. This basketball head also comes from a basketball family that made their imprint on New York City basketball as well, on and off the court. His older brother was also a Bishop Ford great and Columbia University standout, while also being one of hip-hop giants, one part of the group Third Base. Y'all know what it's like. Hip-hop at its finest. His father was a legendary coach at Bishop Ford and is the president of the Catholic High School Athletic Association to this day. So when it comes to basketball experience, this basketball head has plenty. Let's run down his resume, which makes up over 20 years as a head or assistant coach on the NCAA Division I level. He held coaching jobs at Fairfield, St. Francis, Seton Hall, Siena, St. Bonaventure, Sacred Heart, Duquesne University, where he has led schools to multiple NCAA and NIT appearances. Now, this basketball head is the director of basketball at IMG Academy, leading one of the top schools in the country to major success. So when you look at all the talent coming out of this program, you just know that my guy for over 30 years and from New York City is at the helm. So without further ado, help me welcome to the show Bishop Ford High School and Keene State College great, and now director of basketball at IMG Academy, my God, Brian Nash.
Y'all ready?
Y'all ready?
Yes. You have just stepped out into the world of chaos. Where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Hurry up, everybody. Get online, buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.
What's happening, my brother?
What's going on, Glenn? Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, thank you for joining us tonight, man. So
you're doing some great things, so I'm honored to be on here.
No, this is all good, man. It's been a long time, man. We was talking a little bit earlier, and I just wanted the people of New York City to know, and especially the kids, that there are so many guys and girls, men and women, doing some amazing things throughout the country that come from New York City. And it's not just, playing in the NBA, but they're doing some things on and off the court that are contributing to a lot of kids' success across the country. So I definitely want to give you your flowers, brother.
Well, thank you.
No doubt, man. So I want to jump right into this, waste no time, man. Who introduced you to the game?
Well, I don't think I didn't have any choice growing up in my household. So, when your dad's a coach and it kind of gets introduced to you, you end up being a water boy or a ball boy when you're younger, and you go to the games, and I think you get your first love for the game. So I would have to say that that's definitely where it started.
No doubt, man. No doubt. What part of Brooklyn are you from?
So we are actually. So I was born in Queens, and we're actually more of a Long Island family. So
See, I always thought you guys was from Brooklyn.
No, so we lived in Floral Park, which was like right on the half of it was in Queens, half of it was in Long Island, and my dad had always commuted into Brooklyn. He lived in Brooklyn. He was there. He was born there, and then so we cover all the boroughs and a little bit of Long Island. So
that's awesome, man, and that's good to know because that's some information for me. I didn't even know. Yeah, look at that. I'm still rapping, and I don't even mean to do it. so was you always like, following your brother Pete? Because, just in case, I mentioned it in the intro, your brother Pete, of course, played at Bishop Ford as well, and went to Columbia University. Did you kind of follow behind his footsteps, or you kind of wanted to make your own way?
Well, yeah, he was always, your older brother's always somebody that, as he's having success, you want to try to fill his shoes. And again, with my dad being the coach, and you and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. I mean, all when you're in New York City basketball and you have access to all the great coaches and all the great players that were there, you're looking up to all those guys. So it wasn't just one person. I mean, my brother was obviously the person that, I said, hey, I want to be better than him. I want to try to keep working. And, he was a senior when I was a freshman. So when I was a 15-year-old wise guy trying to mess around with my brother and his teammates a little bit, I got put in my place a lot. So,
hey, look. When I remember, you played with a chip on your shoulder, you had a different kind of swag than Pete. So, man, you was tough, man. Definitely tough, brother.
Yeah, he was a little bit more of a one-way shooter. I could do a little bit more. So,
Pete, you hear that? That's good. That's my guy. So, what park did you guys grow up playing? What was the park in the neighborhood that you honed your skills at, or was it inside of a gym?
I think one of the big things that I had the luxury to was just as I go back to with some of the great people that were around. I don't know if you remember the name George Bruns at all, but George Bruns played at Manhattan College. He played in the ABA with the Nets. And George used to play out at Freeport High School on like Saturday mornings with all the old pros. He played with Wally Serbiak's dad.
Wow.
George Groom, who played at Fairfield, who was one of their all-time leading players. I mean, the list goes on and on. I wouldn't say that we were associated with one place because, when you're trying to find a game, you got to go to a lot of different places.
Right. Now, that's cool to know, because I always say Long Island has a plethora of ball players who came out of Long Island who had major success throughout the country. So definitely want to give Long Island its props.
Yeah. And like anything, you tried to get yourself into the West Fourth whenever you could, or any of the really good places. So, there's a lot of great memories when you had chances to step on those courts.
Yeah. Do you remember your first game that you played in under the whistle?
Oh man, I don't.
Was it CYO? Was it CYO?
It was CYO. So we played at Our Lady of Victory. We had some really good teams. And I enjoyed it. So a smaller gym, one of those little church gyms that you remember that's still there, and you go back to it and you don't realize how small it is, and you say, "Oh my God, how the heck did we play in this gym?"
Now, was it the same Our Lady of Victory that's in Brooklyn?
No, this was Our Lady of Victory in Floral Park.
Okay, yep. Because we had one here in Brooklyn which had a small gym as well.
Yeah,
and that's how a lot of us, started playing ball. You talk about the Gerald Greens, the Joe Jacksons, the Trevor Davis, and all those guys who came up during that time while we were playing. And CYO really doesn't exist anymore, because those were like the early stomping grounds before, you got to high school and junior high school. So
yeah, no, I remember days. One of the standout. I shouldn't say a standout, but those CYO memories. I remember playing at Holy Cross High School and everybody was talking about this guy Kenny Anderson because he was a couple of years younger, and I was like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna get to play against Kenny Anderson today.
Right.
Sure enough.
At what age when you first saw him?
I had to be in 7th grade, maybe. So I think he's 2 to 3 years younger. So I mean, he was legit.
Was he like, look, I know we talk about Kenny a lot in the show, but y'all have to understand when you're a child prodigy like the Stephon Marbury, early on, not too many players can keep it up for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
And if you was in 6th grade and he was like 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah.
And they was talking about him then.
He was the one.
Woo.
Yeah.
Salute to Chiz, man. He hits me up every day on Instagram, man. Love you, brother. I know he's probably gonna see this. He's probably on watching right now. So
yeah, no.
Nah, that's cool. That's cool. So when you was coming up, who was the player that you was idolizing and said, you know what? If I watch this player, I can get my game to where it needs to go.
All right, so thinking about this one. So New York City Catholic League, being a younger kid, growing up and seeing a lot of games with my dad tagging along. I knew there were some guys that I was never going to be, like Tony Red Bruin or Chris Mullen or Mark Jackson or any of those guys that were incredible players. Again, I just wanted to be the best I could be. I mean, it wasn't like I said, okay, hey, there's somebody that I really want to be like. I just wanted to work hard. I wanted to, I wanted to be a coach's son, have an IQ, play a certain way, and hopefully that was going to be kind of where it was going to take me. I was kind of more in awe of a lot of the players in the city. Like, I mean, Lloyd Daniels was the one. I mean, the thing on this show, I'm sure you go through it. You don't want to do a disservice to anybody because there's so many good players. But I remember going to Columbia University and seeing Golden Hoops and watching Lloyd Daniels play and get a triple-double in the first half. And, like, I'd never seen anything like that before. And then Kenny was kind of the other player who just – I mean, he was at my time, so it wasn't like I was looking – but just kind of two players that were transcending and just had such a difference that I saw and actually physically got to see. I mean, I don't know if people remember the thing about Kenny, but like when Kenny was a freshman, Coach Curran had loyalty to his seniors. So he had a point guard. I forgot. I think it might have been Tracy was his last, not Brad Tracy, but he played his senior for the whole first quarter, and Kenny sat the whole first quarter as this legend, and he played 3 quarters, and he led the city in scoring as a freshman playing 3 quarters. So, I mean, that's pretty hard to do.
This is so crazy that you mentioning this because I'm gonna first start off with Lloyd Daniels. We played in the first, I think it was the Martin Luther King Classic, and I think it was at FIT or Columbia, either way, or City College. I'm not too sure. Well, anyway, I've never seen 2 players guard 1 player. Now, I've seen guys get trapped before, but I've never seen 2 players slide 94 feet playing 1 player. I've never seen that before in my life. I've seen guys trap, double team, but never 2 guys on 1 guy. And that was Lloyd Daniels. And he would throw the ball, split them, get it back, and they'll be chasing, running behind them. It was crazy. And Kenny Anderson, we got a chance to play against him up in Glen Falls. And we was banking on the fact that he wasn't playing the first quarter. Listen, it would have been a different game if he started.
Right.
We was just like, yo, let's just get this run before he gets in the game. And he was only in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And came in and had, I think, 21 or 23 and 3.5 quarters because we went to overtime. changed the whole game.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Lloyd Day. Hey, look, you talk about Mark Jackson, Tony Red Bruin, Chris Mullen. These are all the players that you saw coming up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the list goes on and on. I mean, there's other guys like, Glenn McMillan played at Holy Cross. He was a great player. I mean, Derek Chivas at Holy Cross. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, you don't want to do a disservice to people, but I remember being I love going to games with my dad, and you just remember the St. John's. You always wanted to get to the city quarterfinals or the city semis, and then just incredible talent of basketball. And I remember my senior year. I mean, it was Tallentine against Malloy in the city championship at Fordham, and I think there were like 11 Division I players on the floor or something like that. It was incredible.
That game is on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Malik and Red
Autry,
Brian
Reese. Yeah.
Jerome Holmes, and then you got Werdan and John Dunn and Kenny and Shanahan. It was great basketball.
Wow. You know who I just talked to recently on Facebook? He commented on a few of my posts. Tom Grice.
Yeah, big Tom Grice.
Yeah.
Him and Kenny Atkinson, right? They played together out at St. Anthony's, and
yeah.
So that was always the New York City Catholic winner had to go out and play the Long Island winner to go to the state championship. So it was always whoever the city was, and St. Anthony's had a pretty good run in that stretch. So
no, they did.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your time at Bishop Ford and the transitions you had to make, not to get seen as a guy who had it easy because your dad was the coach, because people saw Pete and they it's going to see another Nash, but I think they was going to see a different kind of Nash this time around. Like, what was your transition like in high school?
Yeah, so it was, people who don't grow up in New York City and play in those schools don't understand that, okay, hey, most freshmen and sophomores don't play varsity because the teams are so good. Like if you got to play varsity as a freshman or sophomore, you're really good. So
yes,
I didn't even play a lot my junior year. We had a really good, there was a team of seniors that had won the freshman city championship. Harry Gordon, Vince Jackson, Mark Jaber, Kevin Israel, Mike Yanako, and these guys were good. And they, as much as we were teammates together, they weren't trying to. They were fighting for spots. So I didn't play a ton my junior year, and it was more coming back. I had a really good transition from my junior to my senior year because I grew late. I was smaller. I really, like my sophomore year to junior year, I grew a lot. So was kind of catching up, and then had some really good success and had a really good senior year. So, again, played on the ball, off the ball a little bit, and had some handles and could make some shots. And like I said earlier, I think some of my teammates, when your dad coaches, maybe he runs a few more plays for you, but you still got to make the shots. So,
but you earned it, B. Let's be honest. You earned it. So
well, it's hard. It's hard having your. I've got some great stories. My dad was an old school coach, and coaching back then was a little different. You could get away with a little bit more back then than you could now. If I didn't play well, he wouldn't drive me home. He'd make me take the train home. So he'd be mad. But I think that was part of the whole thing too, because you don't want to show the favoritism to your son amongst the other guys on the team. So you had to kind of draw that line a little bit.
No, that's real. And your dad, we saw a different side of your dad at the Empire State games. We didn't get him as a high school coach.
Yeah.
Him and
Frank
Mickens, right? They were the coaches for the high school. Yep. And rest in peace, Mr. Mickens.
Yep.
I just remember, them getting on us during the Empire State games, and we was a little cocky back then, but they told us, listen, it's enough for y'all here for some of y'all to sit. So if you don't bring your A game, you ain't gonna play the minutes that you think you're gonna play, and you have to realize, you're going to play Empire State. They got the best players in the city. right? It's all the best players in the city that's going up. And if you don't play, at the peak that they think and know that you could play, you won't be playing that much. So I just remember saying that.
Those teams were, I mean, if you went back and looked at all those teams and who was on those teams, I mean, I think one year it was Pearl Washington. I might have the dates of the years off, but it might have been Pearl, it might have been Boo Harvey, it might have been Mark Jackson on the same team. I mean, those guys were, those are to your point, those are the three guards on the team. So it's like, all right, hey, if you're not playing well, then guess what? Somebody's going to be able to step in, and those teams were incredible. And yeah, my dad and Coach Mickens, like you said, rest his soul. They had a good ham and egg going.
Yeah, definitely.
They love going up to Syracuse because Coach Boeheim took care of them always up there because he was going to recruit somebody.
So I could tell this story now. I hope it doesn't get anybody in trouble. But we was up in Syracuse, and we was walking down Market Street, and Kenny, Conrad McCray, all of us, Ralph James, we all walking, and everyone who owns the store was coming out trying to get these guys to come in the store so they could give them something. So we know all odds is on us, so guys was kind of saying hi but wouldn't go in because we'll be too tempted to receive these gifts that they were giving away. But it was pure madness. And then rest in peace, Conrad McCray, he signed that week, and he thought Kenny was going to sign it, and Kenny held out, wound up going to Georgia Tech.
A couple of dinners probably at Grimaldi's too, instead of eating at Del Plain Hall and on campus.
Right. That says it all. That says it all. So, just keeping in that same sense before we move into, your senior year, how well you guys did. Your brother, myself, Derek Chivas, Boo Harvey, Ross Strickland, Dal Middleton, Dwayne Martin, the actor, right? We remember your brother telling us he was going to become a rapper. And we all blew him off. He was showing us all these people's numbers in his black book or phone book. We didn't have cell phones back then. And we just didn't take him serious. It was like, we didn't know basketball players could transition to rappers.
Sure.
I think when I became a freshman at Fairleigh Dickinson, they dropped their first album, and he had the whole team in the back of the album. And I would show people like, yo, this is my guy Pete. He did it. Like, that's why I said, man, look, somebody said they're going to do something, just believe them, take their word for it, man, because you never know how life turns out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, hey, that was definitely not expected. When
for you too?
When you went to graduation dinner and you say I got an announcement for the family. You just finished Columbia as an English major, and you think
right,
law school or something, and hey, I signed a record deal with Def Jam, so But he was doing I know you were doing stuff at FDU with the radio show.
Yes.
And he was doing stuff at Columbia, and then started doing a lot of stuff underground, and hey. Def Jam put them together. Him and Serge didn't even know each other. They just put them together and say, "Hey, let's see if this works." And the rest is history. So
that's it, man. That's it. Great history right there. So your senior year, you say you came into your own. Shots started falling. Then you started making your way. You make these, all city and all Brooklyn teams. What was it about your team that year that kind of made you feel comfortable about being in that position as a scorer?
So like I said earlier, when I was a junior, we had some seniors that were, very good players. They had been in the program for a while, and they had big roles, and a lot of those guys graduated. So when I was a senior, I was the one junior who maybe played a little bit with that group. So I was the one that had the experience. So when we were coming up, we had we had a group of guys that were a little bit unknown. We were, we played hard. I wouldn't say we were definitely as talented as all the teams that we were playing against, because the league that year. I mean, Rob Phelps was at Nazareth. They were good. Christ the King had, I mean, Derek Phelps, Khalid Reeves, Jamal Faulkner. I mean, they were teams that were loaded. Jamal Mashburn was up in Bronx, Manhattan, right? Talentine was loaded with, Malik and Red and Brian Reese, and then Kenny was at Malloy. So it's one of those leagues where, my God, you look back and, I mean, we had to fight for our lives every night just to be in the game. So, so I think that was, I kind of took on a role where I had to, I knew I had to score, and I knew I had to have a bigger role just because we didn't have as much experience, and we were going to grow as the year went on.
You hear all the names that you're calling out, bro?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about NBA greats. Kenny's in the Hall of Fame. We talking about guys who was high school greats, went to big-time Division I schools. These dudes kind of ran the city and made the city what it is to this day. Yeah. We talk about Jamal Faulkner. He's somebody that people really talk about. 6'8" guard, Brian Reese. Yeah. Rob Phelps, the number 15 scorer in New York State history.
Yeah. Well, I think there were like 30 Division I players that came out of the league that year, maybe my senior year. And again, I think it's not where it was, I think, because, again, I think, kids are going to they're unfortunately leaving the city and going to some places. But, I mean, those were definitely the glory days.
But this is just New York City by itself, right?
Yep.
Come on. Let's keep it real. Whatever state is putting out 30 Division I players in 1 year.
Yep.
And we talk about today.
Yeah.
So, man.
No, it's an amazing place. There's a lot of talent.
Yeah. Wow. Now, give me one moment, and one game that you had that sticks out to you the most, that made you understand that you can compete with some of the best in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Not say, you were better than them, but, to say, what? All of these guys I just named, there was this one time and probably a few times, but let's just talk about one time that you say, what? I could compete with some of the guys who are, mentioned right here.
Yeah. No, I would say one. So if you go to, we were in the Brooklyn division of the CHSAA, and it was Avarian, it was Laughlin, it was Nazareth. And when you go to Laughlin on a Friday night for a triple header, and it's packed, and the cheerleaders are there, and they were going to come at you, because I was the leading scorer, and I had a really good game at Laughlin on a Friday night early in the season, and I think that gave you the confidence that, hey, I could go in this environment, the hostile environment where everybody's going at you, and Coach Quigley and Coach Leckie and those guys who were there. It was I got a lot of great memories in that gym, just from being a kid and watching some of those great games in there, and then being able to do it on my own and play there. That stands out.
For those of you that don't know, Bishop Laughlin is one of the madhouses in Brooklyn. Like, if you do well there, through all the excitement and all the things that's going on, and I won't say it's kind of Duke-ish for a high school level, right? Because all the pandemonium that goes on there, but it kind of gives you that feeling, because I remember my freshman year playing there, and Silk and James Majors going at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talking about two guys who could just flat out shoot, and me being on the bench watching and saying to myself, how are they able to do this with all this racket, all this noise going on?
All right. The funniest Laughlin story, though, so I wasn't in high school yet, and I went to, I think it was a Brooklyn Queens like diocesan championship, and it was Malloy was playing Laughlin, and the people that know Laughlin really well know that they come strong with their cheerleaders, and those girls take a lot of pride.
That's right.
So their halftime show was their time. So they were doing their big routine at halftime. And I'll never forget, Coach Kern came out and he wanted his guys to warm up at halftime, but the girls weren't done with their routine. So he was going and tapping girls on the shoulder like, hey, can you get off the court so we can warm up? And the girls were they were looking at him and said, we're not done with our routine yet. So
wow. Yeah. Lachlan cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And public school, I think we had the best cheerleaders. Lincoln had the best cheerleaders for the public school side. Yeah.
But you got to take care of your own. I know.
Ask around. I hear it for the boys side guys. Grady didn't have any cheerleaders, so they went to come over and steal our girls. So
I know we don't want to start a PSAL CHSAA fight right now. So
listen, right now for what we know, we're gonna have to give it to the Catholic School League because I think you guys won 44 state championships since 1979.
Is that the number? Wow. All right.
That's the number.
All right.
That's the number.
You are the basketball head.
So we got to tip our hats. I know we had a lot of great players coming out of public school, but we still have ways to go. So definitely. So what was your recruiting process like your senior year? And what made you go to Keene State College?
Yeah, so I it kind of mirrors what happens with a lot of kids today. I was being successful, and I thought I should have, like anybody, I thought I should have been recruited higher. I was playing well, and I was, I played in front of coaches, and you know what? I had a dad as a coach, and he was saying, all right, you know what? These are the schools that are recruiting you. So let's not, I think today's day and age, people are always, well, let's try to go as high as we can. Let's go to prep school for a year. Let's see if we can get our recruiting higher. I mean, I was recruited by a few Division II schools and a lot of Division III schools. I mean, I had some really high-end academic schools that were great, like Hamilton and University of Rochester. And Keene ended up becoming a really good opportunity. It was Division II. It was a full scholarship. It was a really good league at the time. I mean, there's a bunch of schools in that league now. I mean, the league's disbanded, but like half the league is Division I now. Sacred Heart was in there. UMass Lowell. Stan Van Gundy was the coach at UMass Lowell back then, and Bridgeport was the one who Bridgeport just owned the league when I was there. I mean, they went to 3 Final Fours, and Lambert Shell from August Martin was a monster. So it was just a really good opportunity. And then I went on my visit there, and Jimmy Ferry, who was the head coach at LIU for a long time, and he ended up becoming my college roommate. And Jimmy, we're very good friends to this day. But Jimmy was kind of the one who said, hey, come on up here. We can play together. We could be 2 New York guys and have some success up here. So that kind of was the, kind of how I got there, and, just enjoyed my career there. It was a great spot.
What I try to tell the youngsters is, you want to go where they want you. A lot of times we go to these colleges where, where we want, like, I'm going to go there because it looks nice on the resume and everybody in the neighborhood, think it's a great place for me. And we kind of shun those schools who really want us. And I think no matter where you're at, no matter how good you are, you can make any place your home if you do it the right way.
Nah, 100%. Like you said, you want somebody that wants you, that knows you, that has a relationship with you, and you want to play. Because again, the whole thing about I can put my time in and I can wait for it. Like, okay, you can, but you might, if that time might not come. And then the world we live in nowadays with the transfer epidemic and all those things. I mean, it was different back then. You had to stick it out a little bit more, but having my dad as a coach, that was one of the big things that said, hey, these guys want you. You can go in and play as a freshman. When you play, it makes your academic situation better, your college experience better. And to the one thing that you just said, and it's what we tell the kids a lot, because, where in the world that I'm at now, where we have to find homes and we have to place kids in college a lot. if you go to a Division I school and you play 5-6 minutes a game for your career and you only average 1 point a game, versus say somebody that went to a Division III school, had a great career, freshman year maybe averaged 10 points a game, sophomore year was an all-conference player, senior year had potential to be the player of the year and averaged like 17 a game. Everybody talks about wanting to try to play pros after they play in college, and the analogy that I always use is, okay, I mean, do you think an agent is going to, just because you went Division I and you average 1 point a game, do you think an agent's going to possibly give you an opportunity? There are a lot of great Division III players and II players that go on to play professionally because they have good careers and they're finished products. You know what? They average 15, 17 a game. And again, if I'm an agent, that's the whole thing where, I want a known commodity. I don't want something that is not, that I don't know has a lot of experience and has been through, the battles and had a great career. So to your point, recruiting is twisted. There's a lot of, there's so few spots and so things that everybody wants out there. And, you need to be educated on a lot of that stuff. And there are so many opportunities that are good opportunities.
Yes. How was life for you, going from New York to New Hampshire up in New England?
Yeah, it was good. It was, we had a lot of New York people that actually were up there in school. So, you had your little bit of, New York flavor up there, but, totally change of pace. It was New England. Things were a little bit slower. And, it's nice to be the big man on campus when you play and those things. It makes the college experience a little bit better too. But, I think that's part of the growing process as we all go through it. You want to experience different places, living in different places and meet different people. And, that helps determine who you are as you move on in your life.
Yeah, it helped me out going to Maine my senior year. It kind of broadened my horizons and my outlook on the world. So when I got to college, I was ready to be on my own and take care of myself and kind of balance the books and the ball, because that's what it's all about. New York City is a fast-paced town, and a lot of times, we putting the ball over the books. And I think if kids can, get a better understanding of how to manage both of them, because when you get to college, you're basically a young adult on your own and gotta do both very well to enjoy the college life, and then also have to do well in academics as well to even enjoy the college life as a student athlete.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have some good stories from MCI. So.
Oh yeah, great times, And when I look back at it and say to myself, man, I wish I wouldn't have done the things I need to do. I wish I would have done the things I needed to do to stay in the city, because I probably would have been the best player in New York City in '87, with no doubt. But that was the best thing for me at that time. And my coach and Tom Kachowski came up with this plan to get me to MCI. And I thank, Mr. Pellicani, Coach Pellicani, and the Kingsbury family for helping me out during my time there. So definitely great. Yeah. But awesome time, man. Awesome times. It's me, Perry Carter, Henry Golightly. Perry went to Ohio State. He was McDonald's All-American. Henry Golightly from Houston. Roger Lewis, who went to Eastern Michigan from Mass. So yeah, Rob Vickers went to Indiana State. So it was a lot of Division I players.
I was turning them out back then.
Yeah. So let's walk me through like your early transition to college, becoming a college player now. You don't have dad right now. You're on your own, and you got to find your way. But, you had a guy that you came from New York with that kind of made things a little easier for you. Did y'all guys came up with a plan together, or individually you had your own thing that was going on to kind of help you become successful there?
Oh, hey, it's starting from scratch, and now you're 18 and you're playing against some guys that are 22, so they're grown men. We actually had a guy on my team. We had a 6'9", 6'10" guy that was like, because they were Division II didn't have some of the age restrictions back then. He was like 29 years old. He was a grown man.
Hold on, explain that to me. Explain that to me, because I've never heard. This is my first time hearing this.
Yeah, so the rules with Division II, there were certain exceptions back then that didn't apply. Like Division I had stricter rules on eligibility and age, and in Division II there was kind of a little bit of a loophole there. So, I mean, so again, coming in at 18 and playing against 22 years, and then like I said, Big Mark was like 29 because he had some work in his career and those things, and ended up coming back to college. But I mean, he was a thick. He passed away a few years ago too, so God rest his soul. But he was one of the biggest dudes I've ever, thickest boned, and I mean, he loved knocking me on my tail every chance that he had. So, when you're a freshman, you got to earn your stripes. And I wasn't coming in, and we had a point guard who was phenomenal from Connecticut. He went to St. Joe's in Connecticut, and Johnny Jennings was his name. And unfortunately, Johnny passed away too, but he was a great player. And like, I had to fight, I was fighting just to get backup minutes over him. So, you put your time in, you start learning the systems. And, for me, I learned a lot from those players. I mean, again, I think today's society a little more instant. People you don't want to have to put your time in as much, but I think that was the best thing for me and for my development, that I did go into a time where, I had to fight and earn everything that I got. And then, as the season went on, my minutes progressed and I had a bigger role in the team.
What would you say was like your breakout year at Keene?
I'd definitely say, I mean, we had some bad luck, and Jimmy Ferry will tell you this whole thing too, because Jimmy ended up, my freshman year, we had a very good team, and the league was really good, and Jimmy blew his knee out and had his first ACL. So I ended up getting more minutes through his injury, but so a bunch of those guys graduated. I ended up going into like a starting role my sophomore year, and we started out. We had a really good start to the year. We were like 5 or 6-0 in New England, and we were playing really well. And Jimmy re-injured his knee, so kind of derailed us a little bit. But again, I think everybody looks back at their college careers and always wish that they won more games. I mean, we were in it's kind of like a redo of high school a little bit. We weren't as talented as everybody, but we were playing against really talented players every night, and we had to go above and beyond to compete. And we had some injuries that really crushed us. And when you're playing Division II and not as many scholarships, if you lose a really good player, it hurts you.
Wow. Yeah, I had Lamb Michelle on here. He talked about, all the success that he was able to have at Bridgeport, and,
And he was phenomenal. I mean, couldn't, 6'4", played 3, 4, 5.
Strong.
I mean, couldn't dunk everything on you. And, I mean, think about it. I know they went to at least 3 Final Fours in his time. I don't know whether it was 4 or not, but anytime you can do that, because again, the other thing that happened back in those days was, Prop 48 was in place in Division I. So there were some guys who would be eligible going Division II and didn't want to sit out. So you got some really, really high level players at Division II.
Yeah. I had Mario Ellie on a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about going to American International. Yep. and becoming 3-time player of the year there. And when he thought he was ready for the NBA, he said he went to an NBA workout and realized that the NBA is just a whole nother level. So he had to go overseas to get his mind and his body right, especially his body right, to come back to the NBA when he was a little bit more prepared. And, you know, tell kids all the time, you know, I know your dream is to make it to the NBA, but I played with and against a lot of great players that never stepped on the NBA floor because how difficult the process is, you know.
Yeah.
So you just got to put in the work and be dedicated. You know, it kind of reminds me. Have you seen the Redeem Team documentary?
Yeah.
Right? When Kobe's going to the gym 4:30 in the morning, the guys is coming in from partying.
Yeah.
And they looking at him like, he's looking at them like, you know, going to get prepared.
About? Yeah.
Right. What choices you going to make? Right? Do you want to party later, or you want to put in the work now to be great? So yeah. Wow. This is so. What did you make all New England your senior year?
I was. I mean, if I even look back, I mean, probably second or third team all New England, maybe. I wasn't one of the best players in those leagues because, again, there were some really, really good players. But you know, I had to try to keep getting ahead of Lambert. You know, we finally beat Lambert, like my senior year. We finally beat him, so it was one of those victories where you could say, "All right, we beat Bridgeport."
No, especially when you're playing against a guy like that who you know who's done very well. He has national attention. He's Player of the Year, Division II.
Yeah.
You know you're doing something right, no matter what level you're on. So, man, to just to be in the conversation on one of those teams saying you had to be doing something right.
Yeah, no, it was good. I had like anybody, you have good teammates, and you know you got to keep working. You got to keep working. You got to keep getting better every year, and you know you give it your all, and you see where the chips fall, and then hey, you know what? Before you know it, your career's over, right?
Like that. When did the coaching bug kick in?
I mean, I always tell people I wasn't smart enough to do anything else, and it was in my DNA. And I mean, I had been around it so much. I think I knew I wanted to coach my senior year. I mean, like everybody, it was okay. Hey, can I get a chance to play overseas maybe and try to live that dream for a little bit? But the opportunities that were popping up weren't great. And so I had started interviewing for some jobs, you know, right after I graduated. There was a GA at St. Michael's that I didn't get. And so I ended up coming back to the city that my first year out of college, and I coached with my dad, and I taught, like I was a sub, and then I was teaching remedial math at McKinley Junior High School and in Bensonhurst. And, you know, I think that year with my dad, I got the bug because I started going to college practices and started working camps. And one of the best things my college coach ever did for me was he made me work 5-star when I was in college. So like starting the summer of my freshman year in college, I was a counselor. And that's when 5-star camp had all the Division I guys were there, and, you know, Mr. Garfinkel, and you just met your relationships, and Mr. Kachowski, all those people. So to me, that kind of helped because people knew who I was, and you started, you know, you, like anything. I mean, coaching's hard, and then trying to get a role. So, you know, worked with my dad, and then I was fortunate enough to get a GA at Sacred Heart University, where they were in the league that I had played with in college. And Dave Bike was a legendary coach there, had won 700 games, won a Division II national championship. Coach Billy Baino and Tony Judkins were All-Americans there. So that was kind of the start of it. I knew that was the journey, and I totally caught the bug from there.
And he's saying GA, that's graduate assistant.
Graduate assistant, yeah.
For those out there that don't know.
I didn't get paid much. I had a place to put my head on and a couple of meals, and that was it.
But that's all part of the paying dues, right?
Yeah.
Early on, you got to pay your dues because you don't end up in the place like IMG right now with just not paying your dues. You want to just hit the fast track to success, and it happens overnight.
Yeah.
So, you have over 20 years of experience as a head coach and assistant coach. Where did the pressure come up in far as coaching? Is there a lot of pressure being an assistant coach as well as a head coach?
I mean, pressure is always self-inflicted. I think some people deal with it better than others, and I mean, the higher levels you get to, it seems like there's more pressure that's external. But I don't think there's any different pressure from a Division III game, a Division I game. Basketball is basketball. You know what? You're going to have all the decisions that have to be made within a game, and the game is still the same. And so, again, like I said, with pressure, sometimes when you're playing on TV or it's an NCAA game or a big game, sometimes the pressure may seem a little bit bigger just because the stage is bigger. But you played, so you know what that's all about.
Definitely, and I could definitely say the pressure can be self-inflicting a lot of times. So for sure.
Yeah.
I did a show recently about college coaches making a mockery out of the recruiting process by giving out so many early offers to 9th and 10th graders. It seemed like a lot of New York City players on the girls and boys side have been affected by this trend that's going on lately. What are your feelings about that?
So it's kind of funny on it a little bit, because my advice always, when those offers were going out like that and somebody would say, oh, so-and-so offered me, I'd say, call up the coach and tell him you want to commit right now and see what he says. Because again, I think coaches do that for visibility. They want to get their name out there, and again, I it's a tactic, but I always approach it that way. You know what? Call that coach up and tell him you want to commit right now and see what he says. Then when he goes, is he really going to take you right now as a 9th or 10th grader? So, I don't think kids are developed enough at those ages. I mean, some players get better, some players get worse. I mean, if my job's on the line, I'm making sure that when I recruit, I know a lot more about that player, that they're developed. I know on the girls' side, I mean, because of what we deal with here, I mean, girls do develop a little bit earlier than guys. And, you sometimes do have a finished product maybe of what they're going to be physically when they get to college. But, I mean, I see so many kids out here that we have in our academy here who, as 9th and 10th graders, they have talent, but you still don't know what they're going to, to your point, if you did a study on all those kids who got those offers in 9th and 10th grade, how many of them actually panned out and actually got them? So, I think it is a negative, but I understand the other side of it, because you've got alumni and, the social media world right now. You want to establish yourself as a recruiter, and you're working really hard and you're giving out offers to all these kids. So I understand both sides of it because I've been on both sides, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's a great thing for the sport.
Thank God. This is a breath of fresh air, because I come from the same school, so I understand the process, and we both have been recruited. So I just didn't want to come off as someone that's seen as a hater, or someone who's like, well, in my time it was like this. No, it's the same kind of thing, and I showed it the other day, right? So I would give you an example. So when I said the other night, we all got these letters. You see these letters right here? You see this? Right? You see these back in the day? And I kept these.
Shoeboxes. You had the shoeboxes full of letters.
I was able to salvage a few, and I didn't know what I'd be using it for. Now I have a basketball show, and it serves a purpose. And then you get, you get these, right? It's the handwritten letter. Now, does that mean it's an offer? No, it's just that coach is a little bit more interested than just send you out the generic one. And I think a lot of times high school coaches, college coaches, AAU coaches is using that as a sort of leverage, especially for parents to say, well, I got these kids this amount of offers. You should let your kid play for me, which is all good. But I think sometimes parents got to look through the smoke screen and kind of keep it a balance. I have a kid who dad I'm very close friends with. I think he's going to be a very good player. Sincere folk. He played for Malloy. He's like one of the top 9th graders in the city. Legit.
LeVar. Is that LeVar's son?
There you go. Yeah. LeVar's nephew, right?
Right.
And Sherrod's son.
Yeah.
So, see, Sincere, you on right? You're national levels. My guy Brian knowing about you. But he just trying to keep it balanced, right? He don't get too much into the offers early. He keeps blinders on Sincere as far as that and just tell him to focus on the ball and his growth. Mm-hmm. So that means a lot. Again, my little cousin starting point guard was starting 2 guard for Jefferson. Jefferson has a mean combo nation of guards with Poppy, Connor, and Tristan, which is my little cousin. And you try to give them the big picture of what it's going to be like on the other side. So prepare now. And he's only in 10th grade, so he still got 2 more years to go, developing his body, especially if you want to play on the next level. And these kids is like real New York City guards when we were coming up. It kind of gives you that feeling. They press all day, they run up and down the court, shoot it very well, and you just want to see the best for them. And it's a lot more New York City kids who are doing well, but there's a lot others who, like, every other week, they got another offer. And I'm like, isn't this kid like in 9th grade? Is he like in 10th grade? Yeah. Now, they're not the Kenny Andersons. Like, they're not Lloyd Daniel. Right. None of these kids. But at the end of the day, what you said makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, but recruiting's gotten a lot more organized too. I mean, you have so many people on staffs now. I mean, it's somebody's job on staff now to make sure that they know who the best 9th and 10th graders are. So it's a lot different than when we were being recruited, just because like I said, a lot of it is the staffs. I mean, some of these staffs have 7, 8 people on their staffs. They got the GAs of the world doing work behind the scenes and trying to come up with names in all these areas. So, and I mean, there's a lot of luck in that's involved with recruiting. I mean, why does one player get there and another doesn't? And I know, a lot of families, that's something that's, you got to have people that really advocate for you, that have relationships. So I understand what you were saying earlier about, hey, come play for us, because we've put kids in college and we've got good relationships.
Look, LeVar, myself, and I tell kids, you have no idea the people that we know, but I'm not going to knock on someone's door and be like, yo, my little cousin is this and this and this, because there's still ways he has to go, right? And I think a lot of times people calling those favors early just to say I have clout or look at who I know, and it doesn't serve the purpose in the long run. Mm-hmm. Oh. So how did coaching at all of those schools help you become the director of basketball at IMG?
Yeah, so I mean, I wanted to chase it. I after I was at Sacred Heart, I was only there for a year, and then I had a fortunate opportunity to get a Division I job at St. Bonaventure. I worked for Jim Barron, who was a Brooklyn native, went to St. John's Prep. He was a great player at St. Bonaventure. Probably the best first full-time boss that you could have. I mean, just because he taught you everything. He taught you how to run a program. He taught you how to run a camp. He taught you how to worry about what the alumni thought and how to handle certain situations. And, him and Pete Gillen, another Brooklyn guy, they had worked for Digger Phelps out of Notre Dame, and Digger Phelps kind of molded them. So, I was really fortunate to work for somebody like that in my first Division I job, who not only just, he didn't want you to he didn't push you to the side and say, hey, just do your job. He helped mold and mentor. And so really fortunate to have that. And when I was working for him, I mean, I just wanted to keep becoming a better coach, keep becoming a recruiter, keep working your way up the ladder. And, like you said earlier, I mean, when I got the job there, I was a restricted earnings coach, and people nowadays don't even know what that means. So it doesn't matter whether you worked at Duke or whether you worked at St. Francis, Pennsylvania, the third assistant on every staff in the country was called a restricted earnings coach, and they made $12,500. So that was it. And, you were a grinder. You had to put your time in, and you had to own it. And so I ended up working there for 7 years, worked my way up to full time. And, we had some NCAA tournament runs, and, just kept growing and wanted to then build myself. And, the next step was, okay, hey, can I become an assistant at the Big East? And then was fortunate enough to get to Seton Hall with Louis Orr. And then all of a sudden it became, okay, hey, maybe I got a chance to be a Division I head coach. So was fortunate enough to be a Division I head coach at a young age, and learn from all those experiences, good and bad. And then, again, I think I got to a point in my career after, 25 years where I had my kids and I had a wife who we had 7 jobs. So we're moving schools. I'm seeing my kids go through some hardships because I got to move them away from their friends, and I'm not spending as much time with my family. And ultimately it kind of came back to my dad a little bit, because my dad had opportunities to, leave high school and maybe go to college. And he really liked being around kids that you could mentor and you could mold. And part of my transition with coming to IMG was that. It was like, okay, hey, I've experienced a lot, and I've been blessed with what I had, all the experiences in college, but now I can mold the kids now, and the young men and women, that we can get them ready. All the stuff that we talked about being prepared and all those things that you got to do, we can give it to them every day now. And, in an academy like this, that's something that we take pride in. And we hope that, the kids that we are sending off to college are high character young men and women. They know how to work hard. Their skill sets are high. Their IQs are good. And we're kind of giving them the tools, because, college gets a little frustrating. I use the analogy, like, you can't really mold college players. Like, you can discipline them. You can't mentor them as much as because they're kind of set in their ways. But, these younger kids now, we can really make an impact on them.
That's so awesome to hear, because when it comes down to it, you could have just been on that rat race to get the next coaching job, right? To see how high can you go in Division I basketball, and it'll affect you in other ways, right? It's like what you want to sacrifice. Yeah. And I think once you start to realize the importance of being there, watching your kids growing and giving them a stable foundation, but also giving back in a huge way to help mold and mentor kids, which is very important and which is needed in today's time. So I definitely commend you for that, man, because it takes a lot to do that. And the fact that you said, you know what, I'm going to be dedicated to these kids the same way that my dad was when we were younger. So that's awesome. No, that's awesome.
And it tells the story too a little bit about the coaching carousel and how crazy coaching is, because I've got a lot of friends that are in their 50s and, maybe some of them pushing 60, and they've been coaches their entire life, college coaches. They bounce from job to job to job. And as I've gotten older, I mean, I look back at it, and the advice that I give to young coaches is, hey, you want to have a career. You don't want to just have jobs that you bounce back and forth to. because a lot of my friends and my peer, like guys that we grew up with in this business, if you ask them right now if they had a chance to do some things over, I think they would say, "Oh man, I would have loved to have been a high school coach and maybe work my way up to try to be an AD or a dean like you." And like, that's a career. Like, it's not just a job. I think the advice is have a career. Don't just have a job that you bounce back and forth to. And you know what? There's very few, like just like we were talking about earlier with scholarships and kids that get scholarships. There's very, very few guys that make it to the highest level of coaching too, because the numbers game that's there. You're very fortunate if you get there. So you've got to start looking at things and saying, all right, hey, how can I build a career out of this? I'd love to be a high school coach and work my way up to be an AD, have my camps at my school or something along those lines. And you know what? It's what we said earlier. The game of basketball is a game of basketball. Coaching at Martin de Porres and coaching at Duke, it's the same thing. I mean, it's the same game, right?
That's real, man. So tell our audience a little bit about IMG and what it offers for kids and on a high school and on a prep level.
Yeah, so we're a private boarding school. We've got about 1,400 students here. All of our kids that go to school here play a sport. We don't have any. We have 9 sports on campus here, and we pride ourselves on being a developmental academy. I mean, we've got a lot of great players that have come out of here, pros, but at the end of the day, I get more satisfaction out of having put time in and developing a player who maybe was a total unknown to, getting a great Division III opportunity, or, maybe somebody who worked their way up to be a Division I scholarship player who really didn't have anything. So that's what our model is. I mean, we're a little different. We have sport here for 9 months. I mean, we've got a lot of teams at a lot of different ages. This year we have 18 basketball teams at IMG. We've got boys and girls. We start at middle school. We work all the way up through post-grad, and we've got multiple teams at each age level so that we can find the right fit for each player in their developmental stage. If you're really talented, we can find an environment for you to get challenged. If you're a little bit more developmental, we can put you in a position to keep honing your skills and gain your confidence, because to me, that is the big part about the development. Like you want to be able to have success, grow your skills at a pace where, where you're comfortable and where you can keep your confidence. Because I've seen a lot of kids who, there will come a certain age when you get older, when you're in your junior and senior year, where, okay, hey, I might not, the reality comes in of, hey, I might not be as good as I think I am, and I might not be able to go to a Division I school, but at those young ages, it's really, really important. And, we don't talk about recruiting with our younger kids. It's all about that developmental piece and trying to get them to be the best they can be. And we're really fortunate here with, all of our teams have their own strength coaches. We have a department called APD. It's athletic and personal development. Each one of our teams has their own mental coach. They have a nutritionist. They have a leadership coach, because, those are kind of the things that we want to build into what we call a total athlete. We do a ton with sports science now, because, some of these kids, they just want to play 12 months a year, and load management. And, we see a lot more injuries in these kids now. So we've got to start teaching them that side of it as well, that, maybe you can be more efficient when you train. And, you don't have to be in the gym 2 or 3 hours every night. And, you can have a really efficient workout. Go in the gym for 30 minutes, work really hard, and maybe it's a little less wear and tear on your body, but it's still going to help accomplish getting you where you are. Because, again, I think a lot of our kids that are out there right now, they do overtrain.
Yeah, there's a train on every corner, but salute to my guys out there training and doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the overplaying, right? Do you think, with as far as the high school and prep season and the combined AAU games that these kids play before they even get to college, do you think that takes in the wear and tear, or you think the extra training is the cause, or all of the above?
I think you have to know your body. I think, the one thing that I know that kids don't do well enough nowadays, because I got my own kids, I know they don't sleep enough and they don't eat enough. They don't eat well enough because, I try to do a lot of research, and there's a guy out there named LeBron James who does pretty well, and he's lasted for a long time and played at a high level with a massive body and a lot of wear and tear on his body. And if you hear what he believes, he's got to get his sleep. He's got to get sleep. That's the recovery. So getting back to the question, like, is it too much? I think pros still play an extended amounts of time, but I think the education piece of the younger kids is, hey, am I resting enough? Am I eating well enough? Because those are the things that'll help you, be able to play for longer periods of time. And I do think kids need to shut it down at certain times. There's just you have to give your body some rest, because we do see a lot of injuries. And I don't know whether you see it or not.
Definitely.
You see guys that get into college that all of a sudden just have an injury or a freak injury, and I think those are some of the things maybe we didn't see as much back then.
Yeah. For those of you who don't understand how important sleep is, when you go to sleep, that's when your body recovers the fastest or the best. Let me just say that, when you're sleeping, right? So definitely got to get your rest, man. And salute to LeBron James for everything he was able to do for the game, for sure. It's still going, right?
Yeah.
So what do the future hold for Brian Nash? Because you're still young and have a lot more to offer. Do you see you making IMG a career pace for you, so you can help kids throughout the years? What is your plans?
Yeah, no, I love my job now. I work at a great place, and we have great resources here. We just built a brand new $25 million basketball facility, and we're synonymous. I take a lot of pride in when I got here 6 years ago that, IMG wasn't necessarily, everybody kind of knew of it, but we've kind of been able to, take our brand to another level. And there's a lot of culture and pride that's involved here on our girls' side and our boys' side. And that's what I'm the proudest of, is that we've been able to kind of make this kind of a worldwide brand. And so with that being said, I love being here. That's
awesome.
I love being in Florida. I as a New Yorker, I never thought I would live in Florida, but when it's going to be about 82 tomorrow and sunny every day, and when you guys are getting some snow up there,
don't rub it in, B. Don't rub
it in. No. But yeah, again, I've got one of the best basketball jobs in the world, because I get to deal with the kids. I get to deal with pros. I get to deal with every level of basketball in here. And it's amazing. I get to meet amazing people, amazing parents. I have the ability to, talk to agents and whoever, just if I was a college coach, I wouldn't have all those connections. So I love being here.
That's awesome. How did IMG come about?
So IMG was originally in 1978, Nick Bollettieri, who is one of the greatest tennis coaches of all time, started this as a tennis academy down here. It was strictly a tennis academy. Then David Ledbetter, who was a great golf teacher, had a golf academy down here. And then Joe Abunassar, who runs Impact out in Vegas for basketball, started the basketball academy down here. So they were all independent academies. And then IMG, who at that time was International Management Group, they were agents. They basically came in and said, all right, let's put this all under one umbrella. Let's throw an academic component in there. We didn't have a school on campus at that time. They were doing a lot of pro training, but it grew from there. The William Morris endeavor, finally WME, the agency eventually got involved, and we're we're a private boarding school that's owned by a corporation. So it's the unique thing about us where, you know, we do have some of the resources to do some great things, and we have great connections, but you know, we've got great leadership here. We've had it since I've been here, and you know, again, so this thing has grown into a 600-acre campus. The facilities are incredible, and again, it's one of those reasons why, you know, all these college coaches come here for recruiting when they come to see our kids, and they're like, well, you figured it out. So
man, I'm so glad we got a New York City guy down there that's playing a huge part, man. So definitely, man, keep making us proud, man. Keep definitely making us proud.
Yeah, I won't try to take too many New York City players down here. So that's one thing I'm always conscious of.
Nah, so good, man. Look, if whenever I can help out, just let me know, man. It's not a problem.
No, we got to get you down here, definitely.
Definitely. It's a short plane ride. I could definitely come down for sure. Yeah. So, if you could change one thing about your basketball journey, what would it be?
This one is no brainer. I know what it is. So when I was at Seton Hall and the St. Francis College job came open, I had a draw to that job because my dad had played there, and my dad played at St. Francis College on like the last team that went to the postseason, went to the NIT in 1967. Wow. I think they had played against Rick Barry. So your ego gets involved, and I mean, St. Francis is a tough job. I mean, there've been a lot of great coaches there and guys who have done incredible jobs, and you know, my ego was kind of like, all right, I'm going to be the guy that takes them there. And you know, I had a great experience while I was there. I worked extremely hard. I got really, really burnt out. One of the things that I did when I was there, and part of that whole ego thing was, all right, I'm gonna try to get us to be one of the better teams in New York. So as a coach, you always know that scheduling is probably one of the most important things you do. So we had to play, you know, as you know from your FDU days, we had to play, you know, 4 to 5 guarantee games every year, which were, you know, going up to the Dome and playing Syracuse. And there wasn't a chance that you were going to win a lot of those games, but I wanted to play the other teams in New York. I wanted to play Iona. I wanted to play Hofstra. I wanted to play Manhattan. I wanted to play, instead of maybe playing some games maybe that were a little bit easier, so or maybe a little bit more winnable. You know, so I think taking that job at that time, and I think I might have, no job is ultimately 100% easy because of the programs that you have to do. But at Seton Hall, we would have gone to the NCAA tournament again the next year, and I might have had an opportunity to get a job that was a little bit more established. And, you know, I mean, I love my time at St. Francis, but there were a lot of things that you had to do. You had to fundraise for meals and pregame meals and uniforms and those things. And it just, you know, it was a grind. So if I had one thing to change in my journey, it may be at that point, maybe I just might have, I don't regret it because I loved every part of it, but maybe that might have been one thing where I wasn't as fast to maybe jump at that.
And you mentioned ego, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they don't even realize that about themselves. For the fact that you can say that says a lot about yourself. When you do it on ego, a lot of times it don't work out the way we think it should work out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but now that you can look back and say, you know what, if I just was a little bit more patient and understand the whole concept of becoming a coach at St. Francis, probably would have been worked better if it was somewhere else. But just St. Francis, just a different beast within itself, you know, with the grind that it comes with. All right, coach. So, well, you're not a coach anymore, you're a director. So we're going to get into the top five. Once a coach, always a coach. So you can do it, you know.
All right.
So I don't want to get you in trouble, man, but I want to know the top 5 players in Bishop Ford history.
The top 5 players. All right. So So you go back, and so one is like just the name that I don't even, before my time, but Gene Mumford.
Got you.
Then there was Armand Hill. Armand, played at Princeton.
Yep.
Had a great career, and was in the NBA for a long time. He's at Indiana now. He's in assistant.
Yeah, I think your dad just honored him.
The
Hall of Fame. Yes.
Yep. Chris Logan. Chris Logan is 100% there. Chris Logan was a 5-star. Ended up shunning some big time schools to go to Holy Cross.
Ooh.
After that, Mergen Siena was a very, very good player. Mergen would have to be in the top 5. And you're going to kill me on this one now. Try to think the number 5. Charles Jones. Charles Jones probably got to be. Charles Jones would round out the top 5. So
that works. Could have said Trevor Diggs, but I get it. Charles Jones.
I know. Yeah.
No, it's all good. Charles Jones works perfect. That works perfect. Yeah. All right. Top 5 players you played against.
Kenny Anderson, Malik Sealy, Khalid Reeves, Rob Phelps, and Cornelius Muller at Xaverian.
Cornelius Muller.
Yeah.
I have to call Corn because we were supposed to do an interview last year, and he was just like, gee, I just need some more time so I can, get my head right and feel right about the interview. I said, yo, Corn, you've done so much for New York City basketball, brother, so you definitely got to come on. So I'm definitely going to send him this interview. All right. Top 5 guys you played with.
Top 5 guys I played with. Wow. So, when I was a junior, the 3 players that were really, really good were, Harry Gordon. Vince Jackson was really good, and Kevin Israel. Kevin Israel ended up.
That's right. Yeah.
Kevin played at St. Francis College. In college, I played with a guy, Stephen Pollard, who was from Dorchester, Mass., who was one of the all-time leading scorers at Keene and was a phenomenal player. Jimmy Ferry would be mad if I didn't put him.
You got to put Jim in there, definitely.
List,
Yeah, that's right. Salute to Jim Ferry.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. Last but not least, top 5 players in New York City history, from your perspective.
From my perspective, all right. Wow, man, this is that I've seen play or just in general.
I can't even name it. It's whatever comes to mind.
Whatever comes to mind. All right.
Yes.
I gotta go with Lloyd Daniels, Kenny Anderson, Chris Mullen. Oh boy, here's where now we're. I know I'm leaving people out, so
that's why you only get 5.
You gotta go to like Connie Hawkins. And then who's Jamal Mashburn might have been one of the, again, for what he's done with his career. Lou Alcindor, I can't. He would have to be Power Memorial and Lou Alcindor. He'd have to be number 1. So,
look, we had the same 4. We had Kenny. I picked Lloyd. I picked Chris Mullen. We had 3. No, I picked Connie Hawkins. And then, did I? No. I picked Kenny. I picked Kenny, Lloyd. No, I'm telling you who my 5 was, right? And people went bananas on me. I picked Kenny, Lloyd, Pearl, Chris Mullins, and I had
Steph. You had to have somebody from Lincoln in there. Come on.
I didn't. And the reason why I did this only because he was the first pro player I had on the show. I had Rolando Blackman because he was second team All-American. He was second team All-City. He went to played in the Big 8 at Kansas State. was player of the year there, became an Olympian, and also a 4-time All-Star. And that's hard to do being a second-team All-City player in New York City.
Bernard King, forgot about him. I mean, the names just keep going on and on, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Can't do it justice.
Not at all. And listen, man, I appreciate you coming on. It means so much. And I just want to let everybody know in New York City area that, like I told you before, that we have guys in New York City that's doing great things all over the country, and you're definitely one of them. Keep making us proud, man. And man, it was good talking to you, Brian. I got your number. Let's stay in contact, and I will be visiting IMG soon.
Yeah, no, hey, you continue doing great things, and if there's ever anything I can do to help you, please let me know.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, Glenn.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
All right. Wow. See? That's what the New York City Brotherhood is all about. It's all about keeping the brotherhood alive, watching us transition to the next level, and then coming back and giving each other a hand. No matter what it is, even if it's just a conversation, even if it's just a phone call to see how each other's doing, or coming on the show like basketball has. But Brian, he definitely paid his dues. I watched him come up, played at Bishop Ford, watched him at Empire State games. Great brother, great family. Saw him do his thing on the college level, being a coach. And just like he said, you got to pay your dues. And once you pay your dues, you're able to move on into areas where you're comfortable and you find yourself a home. He didn't want to chase the college level jobs anymore, moving his family from one place to another. He wanted a career, not a job. And in college basketball, it becomes a job because you never know where you might be next year. So I commend Brian to all the success and him helping kids, mentoring them, and helping them develop as players, girls and boys. So hope we learned something tonight. Hope we learned that in everything we do, we have to have a purpose doing it. And if you don't find your purpose, you ain't going to be too happy doing what you're doing. So, thank you for joining us. I am your host, Glenn Pooh Harding, and you've been watching Basketball Heads Live, NYC Basketball Network. And we are the official home for New York City basketball. Peace.